Well, good Tuesday evening, everyone. This is State Representative Brad Halbrook, along with my colleagues in the Illinois House, Chairman Leader Chris Miller and Leader David Freeze, along with the State Director of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, Colin Mosley. Welcome, gentlemen, to tonight's Tuesday night live stream. Boy, the weather has been the past day or two, and the forecast for the coming days. You'd think the groundhog might have got it wrong, that we have 6 more weeks of winter, or will we eventually catch up and have more winter?
Well, usually when we have a warm day like today, I think it was got to 72 where I'm at.
Wow.
So I don't think it's over. Usually we pay for it somewhere down the line.
Yeah. Chairman, the weather always averages out. If we have some warm weather, unseasonably warm, we probably get some unseasonably cool, and it'll eventually average out. Well,
at the end of the year, history would say that would be a true statement there, Leader Halbrook.
Well, gentlemen, with that, let's just get into nice slides. And Director, if you will pull up our first slide, we want to talk about a couple of things here tonight. And as we go to the first slide, we had a great night, Friday night, February the 6th, in Arthur, Illinois at Yoder's Kitchen. Had a sold-out crowd. It was a phenomenal evening. A lot of great speakers. Enthusiasm was high. Chairman Miller, you kind of was a big part of this event. Tell us how it went, what your thoughts were.
Well, I tell you what, we got to give a shout out to Jody and Mega Mike having MAGA events, because him and Johnny, his brother, and Jody, they did an awesome job, being able to, and also Director Mosley was right there with them too. But we had 20 tables of 10. Every seat was sold out. Our live auction items, the bidding was lively, and it was just incredible that we were able to have such a great evening. And, one thing about it is everybody there made a contribution, and everybody there had a great time as we saw these soft flutter 50s and 100s into us.
That's exactly right.
Ranking of change.
Yeah. No defiling of the plate with the clinking of the hard stuff. Yeah.
Felt a little bit about like Jimmy Swaggart, really.
I understand. Director Colin, why is events like this is important? Why is it important to have a good crowd and enthusiasm and to raise a few dollars? Why is that important to the cause of freedom?
Well, the patriots that showed up Friday evening, with their contributions, they allow us to further the cause of freedom. And through a lot of ways, we shared with them that night, whether that be texting or digital advertising or messaging like we're doing this evening, but just financially supporting candidates directly as well. In order to elect people, in order to elect good people, you're going to be fighting against some pretty well-funded special interest groups. And so we have to have dollars to do that. And we raised a fair amount of dollars on Friday. And so we're going to use them to support good people like Harold Visser down in the 118th district in the Carbondale, Marion, Carterville area. Myself and Leader Chairman Miller and Leader Big Office Niemer, we traveled to Carterville to endorse Harold this morning in the 118, and looking forward to having another patriot in the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, so this is an open seat in Southern Illinois that is being vacated because the representative there now, Paul Jacobs, is running for a Senate spot. So it's an open seat primary, and Harold has decided he wants to be a part of the Freedom Caucus.
That's right.
That's another real benefit that we had there Friday night at our fundraiser was that one of the hot items was free tours of our offices.
Yeah.
Nice. They did, that auction item did come with the free carbon monoxide detector just for safety purposes.
Well, you can't be too safe in these situations because of multiple reasons. So, gentlemen, anything else on this slide before we move on to the next one? I know we've got Representative Leader Freeze kind of waiting in the wings on the next slide. But if there's nothing else, we'll advance to the next slide, talking about Governor Pritzker and some of his friends. With that, Governor Pritzker, he's kind of the king peacemaker, and he hangs out with peacemakers. Freeze, tell us what's going on here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So this gentleman, unfortunately, what is he wanted in 4 different states? He's a thug, bad guy. And somehow he wormed his way in next to the governor for a photo op. It's fascinating how this happens. And, we'd like some information on this. So instead of, he's not responding to a Freedom of Information request. And, he really should. We have a right to know. The constituents of Illinois, the residents of Illinois have a right to know how this guy ended up next to our governor.
Yeah, it's an important point. This is just an amazing situation that happened, and of course, the governor. There's nothing to see here. Move along. So, Chris or Colin, any additional thoughts?
Well, what I know about the situation, is they're at this event promoting, this Peacekeeper initiative, which is another sort of non-government initiative in neighborhoods, right? And hey, look, we're all about reducing crime. We're all about public safety. This is, unfortunately, these things seem to be just another dangling carrot away from the real issue, which is Safety Act reform, right? That nobody wants to talk about. But here you have this guy that's a supposed peacekeeper, and then he goes and he murders his wife, not murders his wife, murders somebody in a car crash after committing armed robbery. And so it's kind of an interesting contrast of who the governor's hanging out with these days.
Yeah, well, they broke into a jewelry store, right? And then cops showed up, and he was trying to get away and killed a gentleman. Very unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and the governor and the majority party continues to pour tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into these NGOs, these different organizations that support peacekeepers and all these neighborhood initiatives and all these kind of anti-crime preventions. All the while, the numbers continue to go off the charts.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, I don't know. We want to talk about a bill that I got going on that. So I filed a bill that's hopefully we can, the Freedom of Information rule will apply to these NGOs, because it'd be nice to know where they spend their money. If they spend it on actually doing something that they, benefit whatever, cause they say, or is it going to, pay rent for their cousin's building, or, the salaries. It'd be nice to know where our money goes.
Right. And to kind of further pile on with that, I mean, if you've got an organization, an NGO, if you will, that the majority of their funding comes from the taxpayers of the state of Illinois, are they truly a non-government organization when the majority of their money comes from taxpayers, from government? And, to your point, Leader Freeze, they're not subject to FOIA. They're not subject to OMA, Open Meetings Act. They're not subject to any of that transparency stuff. So hopefully your bill gets called in committee and gets a fair hearing and gets to the floor, because this is really important to provide transparency for taxpayers.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. So I petition the government. I say, hey, I need $500,000 to help the homeless in my community. I get that money, and $10 goes to actually helping them for whatever that is. But in the process, I rent a building from my in-laws, and so they get money out of that $500,000. And I'm working, trying to help these homeless. So I need a salary, guess what? I'm going to pay myself, $100,000 or whatever the case may be. So if it is our money, I mean, we really, really need to know where that money is being spent. If it was a governmental agency, we would know. We would be able to get that information. So why can't we get it from these NGOs?
Right. And what's interesting for anybody that comes to Springfield and sees what's going, we see it every spring, is there's busload after busload of these folks that are participating with these NGOs. They show up to, advocate for their different organizations, but it looks more like political advocation than it does anything else. It looks like more of a political movement than it does a policy movement.
Yeah. And for I can't imagine, well, I know why people would be opposed to it, but realistically, who would not want to know where their tax money is going? You know, where's it going? You know, if you and I have a budget, you know, we know where our money goes, where we spend it. We spend a mortgage, a car payment, whatever the case may be. You know, and I know where my wife knows where my money goes too. I can tell you that. So,
yeah. Well, Chairman Miller, you know, they say to follow the money. That tells the story, and I think that's probably what the majority party does not want to have us to be able to do, is to follow the money, because they don't want the story told of where the money's going because of the waste and the abuse and the fraud.
Well, I think that a real clear object lesson of that is what we witnessed in real time going on in Minnesota, because they said if truth be known, and we were able to do a FOIA, I would say that something very similar to that's going on here in the great state of Illinois. And, you know, there's only one reason why they don't want anything FOIA'd is because they don't want any transparency. They want to be found out the corruption that is actually taking place. Because it looks to me like that the Dems have figured out this grand money laundering scheme that is well doing very well, and the return on investment is great in all these blue states.
Right.
yeah. No, and I think another thing is, so do these individuals, these NGOs, do they turn around and take that money, our tax money, and then make a political contribution to maybe our opponent, a particular party? Yeah, so it's very suspect.
Yeah.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Your card is full.
Right. Exactly. Well, Colin, I don't know. We may have kind of worked this slide over about enough. I guess just a kind of a programming note, we go back to Springfield next Tuesday. And I'm sure you're keeping everybody up to date in the website and on the Substack. But next Tuesday, we go back to Springfield for, I'm sure, a fun-filled 3 days. The governor's budget speech is on Wednesday, the 18th at high noon. And we'll all be there in the chamber with eager anticipation of how much more money that he's going to spend on top of already 40% budget increases, nearly $16 billion since he's been in office. Colin, any thoughts about how much more these guys can do to the taxpayer? How much more abuse they can heap on?
Well, you know, for copyright issues, that's in next week's program. So I hate to divulge too much, but we know it won't be good. We know that the governor is going to blame Donald Trump for the Illinois fiscal issues. But I do think, folks, if you're watching, stay tuned for next week's episode, because we'll be going live again, you know, the night before the budget address. We might have a better idea through some sources, as Rich Miller would say, about what the governor is going to say on Wednesday. So just stay tuned.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm scared because we got Speaker Welch saying we don't have a revenue or an income problem. We got a revenue problem. We got a we do have a revenue problem, which translates. Yeah, I had problems getting it out there, which translates into we don't have enough taxpayer dollars. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this go around.
Yep, exactly. Well, and we've talked about this in the past. I mean, these guys have done an excellent job of driving the job creators, the wealthier people. They've done an excellent job of driving them out of the state, and they've boomed the economies in southeastern and southwestern states with low or no tax states. They've done an excellent job of driving people out of the state. And yet this stuff that they used to kind of whisper around about taxing millionaires and billionaires, they were in the Blue Room last week. The senators were talking about taxing billionaires and millionaires. And it's like, it's just crazy the way they just say this stuff, and it just rolls off the tip of their tongue.
Yeah. Never enough.
Yep, exactly. Well, gentlemen, unless there's something else, going once, going twice, going three times, with that, let's close out for the evening, say goodnight, and we hope that you will like, share, comment, and subscribe to all of our channels that help us overcome the algorithmic gods of the big tech overlords. And with that, we'll close out for the evening, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. See you next week, guys.